Welcome to my book journey. Today is the 113th year since the Titanic sank, and so I wanted to do a video about all the books that I have collected over the years, which is not a lot of years, but the books that I have collected over a few years, and talk about those and talk about the ones I've already read and the ones I hope to read soon. And so stay tuned if you're interested at all in Titanic, like a lot of history buffs are. I hope you stay and hang out with me for a little bit. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so I have several books that I have in my collection that I have read and that I have not read that deal with the subject matter of the Titanic. And so my daughter is a big Titanic fan. She loves to hear all stories Titanic and really like to know what happened and the tragedy that occurred. And so when she first started doing homeschool, or when I talked about, wanting to homeschool her, she said, well, the one thing she wanted to learn and do a unit study was on the Titanic. And so that was one of the first things, well, I don't know about the first things, but one of the things that we did that first year of homeschool was we did a Titanic unit study, and we learned quite a bit. So in 1912, it says here in my little history, what is this? A Book of Days in American History, on April 14th, in 1912, it says, on its maiden voyage, the luxury liner Titanic strikes an iceberg and sinks. Supposedly unsinkable, the ship lacks sufficient lifeboats, and 1,502 people go down with it. Back in America, young David Snarnoff relays messages of the sinking from his wireless station, which makes the public aware of the life-saving potential of this new medium, which was the wireless. People were able in almost real time back then, 1912, to hear about this horrible incident that happened. And so since, like I said, it's been 113 years. Isn't that amazing that this happened? And it's still a story that's talked about today. Even just yesterday, my daughter told me, hey mom, they found new evidence that they found on the Titanic. And I think there's going to be a TV show that's going to have it's a documentary that's going to talk about these new images, the scanning images or something like that, where they're finding new evidence of things. And one of the things that I saw on this video talking about this documentary was the fact that how they're able to view it. They see certain things that they're able to deduce that the engineers, supposedly, they're saying now, they're speculating that the engineers were operating the ship up until the sinking pretty much because they were keeping the lights on. They were trying to do their best to keep the power on. And it's just amazing that a lot of them were young men. Young men were down there in engineering trying to keep the boilers lit or whatever. I can't remember what they said in the new images, that things were functioning still up until the point of when they all sank. And it was because they were trying to do their best to keep the lights on and things functioning for everyone else. And of course, they, pretty much a majority of the crew all sank with the ship. And so we're going to try to see that documentary that's coming out. And for this week, I haven't told her yet. She doesn't know yet. But this week, starting on today, we're going to do like a review of Titanic and all things Titanic, and read some books involving the Titanic with histories and things, and then go over some of the things that we learned in our unit study that we did 2 years ago. So it's been a while since we did that. So let me just show you that real quick. So the unit study I'm talking about for our homeschool was through Campfire Curriculum, and it's called In the Steps of the Titanic. And it was really a neat unit, and interwoven in the unit was an actual story that they told us. So maybe that's what we'll do. We'll read that story together again, and a lot of the history and things that we learned in this unit was so wonderful. If you are a homeschooler, this one was just packed with so much information, and it was just a fun time. So this is one definitely we will be able to do over again. And then we also have the core connections that went with it, that had different things and that we can look into this week as well. So that's part of our fun week. And then we're also going to watch some videos about the Titanic, and maybe even watch the big, the famous movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. So this book right here, you will never, I think I talked about it a long time ago in a video, but I actually picked this book up at my library sale for 50 cents. 50 cents I paid for this. And it is, in pretty good condition, and it's, has all kinds of information, and just whenever Ellie wants to look through it, she goes in here to look at all the things that talks about the Titanic. It's an illustrated history of the Titanic. So that's one of my favorite buys at my library sale. So that is one of my favorite buys at my library sale. Okay, so let's talk about the books. So 2 books that I read a long time ago were probably a couple years ago. I read the book by Hazel Gaynor, and I'll put it up here because I don't own it. I did own it, but then I unhauled it, and that was, not that it wasn't a good book, it really was a good book. I was just making space at the time back then, but kind of now I don't know. I wish I would have held on to it. Maybe not, I don't know. But anyway, it was called The Girl Who Came Home, and that was about a young woman, of course, on the Titanic, and coming from Ireland, and her story. And that one was really good. It had a little twist at the end that I didn't see coming, but it was a really good historical fiction book about the Titanic. Another one that we read, and it was during the time when we did this unit study, was a read aloud that we did, and it was called Iceberg, and that's by Jennifer L. Nielsen. And that one was really good. Ellie really liked that one. It was about a young girl who was a stowaway on the Titanic, and the kind of the adventures and the things that she got into during that time. It's like, if you're going to be a stowaway and you're going to stow away on the Titanic, that's not a good ship to stow away on, right? But it was a really good story. I think that was my first Jennifer Nielsen book that I read, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, so those are the books I don't have that I've read. And then I have some books that, like I said, when we went through our unit study, we read all kinds of Titanic books. And one of the ones that we read was the Dear America books, and they have so many in this collection for historical fiction for middle grade kids. And we've read quite a few of these, but this one, it was set on the Titanic. So this is the diary of Margaret Ann Brady and her voyage on the Titanic. And so all these America books are all diary entries of young people going through specific points in history. And this one, Ellie really enjoyed that one as well. Okay, and then let's see, then I'm just showing you first the ones that we've actually read. So I picked up these 2, and these are interactive history books that deal with the Titanic. And these are pretty cute because Ellie will read the story, and at one point in time, as you read along, it'll tell you, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? And so depending on what you pick is how you're going to, it tells you which page to go to next. And so every time you read it, if you choose different things, the story comes out different, and you may not survive, the Titanic, depending on what you choose or where you go and your path. And so this is two different ones, but they're similar because they're interactive. So she really enjoyed going through those. And then we have the what was books, or the what who was and the what is books and those kind of things. And I found one that was what was the Titanic. And so this was just a fun book just for you know, a quick little review and overview in history that she could just read too. So, and then I have some other books that we haven't got around to reading yet, but I just, every time I see books about the Titanic that are like children's books or middle grade books, I always pick them up because, you know, we could always read these. This one is a Magic Treehouse book, Tonight on the Titanic. This one I found is called Travelers Through Time #1, Back to the Titanic. So I guess these are kids. They're wearing regular clothes every day, modern clothing, so they're going to time travel to the Titanic. So that one sounds interesting. We haven't read this one yet, so this could be one that we pick up. Then this one's called 10 True Tales of Young Survivors, Titanic Young Survivors. So this is actual, supposedly based on some true stories, so that would be an interesting one to read. Okay. I think those are all the middle grade books. And then I found this one at a thrift store, I believe. This one's called Exploring the Titanic, and just another one that has information that she can just thumb through and look through that we've used in the past. Okay, so my historical fiction that I have, this is one I would really like to read because this is an older one. Let's see when this was published. And I think they even made a movie of this particular one. Let's see here. If I can pull this up really quickly here. Oh, it has a cool little map in here too of what it looked like. Okay, first printing, 1955. 1955. So that was quite a bit, a long time ago. So they may, I'd be interested to see how this story is, because at this point, did they know? Because I know at one point they figured out that it broke apart, and I can't remember what time, what year they realized that it had broke apart, because it was, some people speculated that there was no way that could happen, but then when they found the wreckage, that they saw that they were split up. So I wonder, it'd be interesting to read this book to see how they portrayed the sinking in 1955. So let me know in the comments below if you've ever read this book. This one is called A Night to Remember by Walter Lord. Okay, so and then I have some modern books here. This one and the next 4 I have not read. They've been on my shelves. I've just been collecting these historical fiction Titanic books, and I would really love to read one this week. And what I'm going to do probably is I'm going to show them all to Ellie and see which one she picks for me to read. And so the first one is called The Deep, and this one is by Alma Katsu, and I believe this one is kind of like a haunting, has like a haunting twist to the Titanic. Like what really happened on board the Titanic? Someone or something must be haunting the ship. And so this would be a really different kind of Titanic book with a little haunting in there. So we'll possibly read that. This one is called The Dressmaker by Kate Alcott. And this one is about a young seamstress that goes aboard the Titanic and her story and what happens to her. There's that one. And then this one is called The Titanic Sisters by Patricia Falvey. And it's about 2 young Irish women yearning for independence and adventure, and they set sail on the RMS Titanic, the ship of dreams, in hopes of a better life. A lot of the people that were on the Titanic were immigrants from Europe, you know, all wanting a better life in America. And so this is probably a similar story. And then the last one I have is Promise Me This by Kathy Golke. And this one sounds really good too. It's about a young woman on the Titanic as well. She's from England, and heading to New Jersey is where she wants to go. And so there's that one. So possibly this book, possibly The Titanic Sisters, The Dressmaker, or The Deep, I don't know which one I want to read this week. So comment below if you've read any of these books, historical fictions that deal with the Titanic. And then also, or possibly this one. And then also, I might read one of the middle grade ones too, with Ellie. All right, so that is all I have for you today. So let me know if you are a person that likes to read historical fiction based on the Titanic, and there's also a lot of good just nonfiction books. There's a book that I meant to get at the library just to show here, and I forgot, but it's called, I'll put it up here. It's called it's something about when the band played on, and it's supposed to be a not historical fiction, a nonfiction about the band, the famous band that, and they portrayed it in the movie The Titanic, how they played and played until the very end to try to keep people calm and you know, so they're not panicking, and they stay at their post playing. And there's a book about their lives, and that's one I would really like to read one of these days. All right, so again, let me know in the comments below if you have any Titanic historical fiction books that you would recommend, and what was your favorite, if you have one. All right, thank you for hanging out with me today. You have a blessed day. Bye-bye.